Security guards grabbed the trembling elderly cleaner by both arms as a diamond necklace glittered inside her worn cleaning cart. Gasps echoed across the grand ballroom, while wealthy guests whispered that poor people could never resist temptation. "I swear I didn't steal it," the old woman pleaded, her voice shaking. "Someone put it there." A senior executive sneered, "Save your lies for the police." Just as the guards dragged her toward the exit, a young accountant stepped between them. "Stop," Emily Carter shouted. "She has cleaned this building for weeks. She would never steal from anyone." The executive glared. "Move aside unless you want to lose your job too." Emily lifted her chin. "Then fire me. I won't watch an innocent woman be humiliated." The room fell silent as every camera turned toward the confrontation. Before anyone could speak again, the master of ceremonies rushed onto the stage, holding a sealed envelope. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "before this evening continues, our honored guest has finally arrived. If you're enjoying stories packed with shocking twists and unforgettable characters, subscribe now, like this video, comment where you're watching from, and share this story with someone who loves emotional billionaire dramas." Then every eye turned toward the frightened cleaner. 3 months earlier, Margaret Kingsley stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window of the Kingsley mansion, watching reporters gather outside after another tabloid claimed her son was secretly dating a famous socialite. She sighed as Ethan Kingsley entered the room, loosened his tie, and tossed the magazine onto the table. "Another lie," he muttered. Margaret studied his tired face. "How many women have promised to love you this year?" Ethan gave a bitter smile. "Too many. The moment they discover my bank account, they stop seeing me. They only see my money." Margaret walked closer and gently squeezed his shoulder. "Your father built this empire with honesty. I refuse to watch it become bait for gold diggers." Ethan laughed softly. "What do you expect me to do? Hide that I'm a billionaire?" Margaret's eyes brightened with quiet determination. "No, but I can discover who people really are." Ethan frowned. "What are you planning?" She simply smiled. "Something you must never know until it's finished." Before Ethan could ask another question, Margaret's assistant entered with documents requiring his signature. As Ethan walked away, Margaret whispered to herself, "A person's heart is always revealed by how they treat someone they believe has nothing." Her secret mission had already begun. Before sunrise the following Monday, Margaret quietly left her mansion through the servants' entrance instead of the front gate. Her chauffeur stared in disbelief as she handed him a small suitcase. "Take this back home. From today, no one must know where I am." Inside a modest apartment, she transformed herself completely. A gray wig covered her elegant hair. Thick glasses hid her sharp eyes. Wrinkled makeup aged her face by 20 years, while faded shoes and a worn cleaning uniform replaced her designer clothes. Looking into the mirror, she barely recognized herself. "Perfect," she whispered. Hours later, she arrived at Kingsley Group's headquarters, carrying nothing but a mop and a bucket. The cleaning supervisor barely looked at her application. "We're short-staffed. Can you start immediately?" Margaret nodded. "Yes, sir." As she cleaned the marble lobby, executives hurried past without acknowledging her existence. One carelessly spilled coffee across the polished floor, then pointed at the mess. "Cleaner, hurry up. That's your job." Margaret smiled politely while silently observing every face. Then a young woman stopped, knelt beside her, and quietly said, "Please don't rush. I'll help you clean before someone slips." Margaret looked up into kind, sincere eyes. For the first time that morning, she smiled with genuine hope. Emily wiped the spilled coffee with a stack of paper towels before anyone could step into the puddle. "There," she said with a warm smile. "Now neither of us has to worry about someone getting hurt." Margaret looked at her carefully. "Thank you, dear. Most people would have walked away." Emily shrugged. Kindness shouldn't depend on someone's job. Their conversation ended when the same executive stormed back across the lobby. "Emily," he barked, "why are you wasting company time helping a cleaner?" Emily stood without lowering her eyes. "Because she needed help. You work in accounting, not housekeeping. And she's a human being, not invisible. The executive scoffed before walking away, muttering that compassionate employees never became successful. Margaret silently memorized every word. Later that afternoon, Emily found the elderly cleaner struggling to carry heavy cleaning supplies upstairs because the service elevator had broken down. Without hesitation, she lifted 2 large boxes onto her own shoulders. "You've already done enough," Margaret said softly. Emily smiled. "My father always told me that if people remember your position instead of your kindness, you've lived the wrong life." Margaret felt her heart tighten. Perhaps she hadn't come to the company searching for the impossible after all. Margaret watched quietly as the days passed, saying little while noticing everything. Employees greeted executives with bright smiles but brushed past cleaners without a glance. Some even dropped trash on freshly mopped floors, expecting someone else to deal with it. Every cruel word strengthened Margaret's belief that character revealed itself when no one important was watching. One rainy evening, she noticed Emily leaving the office long after everyone else. Instead of heading home, Emily stopped at a small pharmacy and counted the few bills in her purse. She hesitated before buying a bottle of medicine and quietly whispered, "Dad, this should help until payday." Margaret followed from a distance and saw Emily enter a modest apartment building. Through the open doorway, she caught sight of an elderly man coughing heavily. "Emily," her father said weakly, "you shouldn't spend everything on me." Emily forced a smile. "Money comes back, you don't." Tears filled Margaret's eyes. The next morning, she purposely left her lunchbox behind. As expected, Emily noticed. "You haven't eaten," Emily said, placing half of her own meal on the table. Margaret protested softly. "But what about you?" Emily laughed gently. "Food tastes better when it's shared." The following afternoon, Ethan visited the accounting department without warning to review the quarterly financial reports. Conversations stopped instantly as employees hurried to look busy. Emily remained focused on her spreadsheet until Ethan stopped beside her desk. "You're Emily Carter, correct?" he asked. She looked up calmly. "Yes, sir. I noticed you found an error in last month's report. I corrected it before it affected the audit." Ethan nodded with quiet approval. "Good work." As he turned to leave, another manager rushed over. "Mr. Kingsley, she's one of our best employees." Emily cleared her throat. "Actually, the entire team deserves credit." The manager looked surprised, but Ethan smiled slightly. Not many people share recognition so easily. After he walked away, several coworkers surrounded Emily. "You had the CEO's attention. You should have impressed him more. You could become rich." Emily shook her head. "I'm here to do my job, not chase someone's money." Across the hallway, Margaret had heard every word. That evening, she was cleaning outside the executive conference room when raised voices echoed through the door. "We can't let the audit happen," an unfamiliar man whispered. Another voice answered nervously, "If anyone checks those accounts, everything we've hidden will be exposed." Margaret quietly stopped mopping, realizing she had just overheard something far more dangerous than office gossip. Margaret pretended to continue mopping, while every word from the conference room burned into her memory. The door suddenly opened, and 2 senior executives stepped into the hallway. She immediately lowered her head, acting as though she had heard nothing. One executive frowned. "Old woman, how long have you been cleaning here?" Margaret smiled politely. "Only a few minutes, sir. My hearing isn't what it used to be." The men exchanged uneasy glances before walking away. From the end of the corridor, Emily noticed the cleaner's trembling hands. "Are you all right?" she asked. Margaret nodded slowly. Sometimes old age makes people nervous. Emily wasn't convinced, but she respected the answer. The next morning, Emily began reviewing financial statements for the upcoming audit. Something didn't add up. Several $1 million had disappeared through a series of small transactions hidden across different accounts. She frowned. That can't be right. She checked the records again. The numbers told the same story. Someone inside Kingsley Group was stealing from the company. Just then, her manager appeared behind her. "What are you working on?" Emily quickly minimized the file. "Just reviewing the audit reports." The manager smiled, but his eyes turned cold. "Good," he replied. "Some records are better left unquestioned." As he walked away, Emily's heart pounded. For the first time, she realized her discovery might put her life and her career in serious danger. Emily waited until the office emptied before reopening the financial records. The missing money wasn't a single theft. It was hundreds of tiny transfers spread across different departments, carefully designed to escape attention. She copied the files onto an encrypted flash drive and slipped it into her purse. Just as she stood, the lights in the accounting department went out. A chill ran through her. Footsteps echoed behind her. Looking for something? Emily turned to find the finance director leaning against the doorway with 2 security guards beside him. "I was finishing my work," she answered, trying to remain calm. He smiled, without warmth. "Hard-working employees are valuable. Curious employees are dangerous." Emily met his stare. "If nothing is wrong, why are you worried about what I'm reviewing?" His expression hardened. "You've mistaken ambition for wisdom." The guards stepped closer. Before anyone could speak again, Margaret appeared at the end of the hallway, pushing her cleaning cart. "Oh dear," she called innocently. "I'm sorry. Am I cleaning the wrong floor?" The finance director forced a smile. "No. Finish your work and leave." As soon as he walked away, Margaret whispered, "You shouldn't stay here tonight." Emily looked at her in surprise. "Why?" Margaret's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Because someone is already watching you." Emily barely slept that night. Margaret's warning echoed in her mind until sunrise. The moment she arrived at the office, she hurried to her computer, only to find every confidential file she had reviewed missing from the system. Her stomach tightened. "That's impossible," she whispered. Before she could investigate further, several security officers surrounded her desk. "Emily Carter," one announced. "You're required in the executive boardroom immediately." Every employee stopped working to watch. Inside the boardroom, Ethan sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. The finance director slid a folder across the polished surface. "We've discovered evidence that company funds were transferred using Miss Carter's employee credentials." Emily's face turned pale. "That's a lie. Someone is framing me." The director shook his head. "Then explain why these transactions originated from your computer." He placed printed records on the table. Emily stared in disbelief. The timestamps matched her login. Someone had used her identity. Ethan looked directly at her. "Do you have any evidence proving your innocence?" Emily opened her purse, desperate to retrieve the flash drive containing the real financial records. Her heart stopped. The flash drive was gone. Someone had stolen the only proof she had. For the first time since joining Kingsley Group, Emily realized she was standing completely alone against people who had planned every move. Emily searched every pocket of her purse again, hoping the flash drive would somehow appear. It didn't. The finance director folded his arms with quiet satisfaction. "Mr. Kingsley," he said, "the evidence speaks for itself." Silence filled the boardroom. Ethan finally stood. "Emily, this company values honesty above everything else. If you've been framed, I'll uncover the truth. But until then, I have no choice." Emily's voice trembled. "You're suspending me. I'm placing you on administrative leave while the investigation continues." The words struck harder than she expected. Outside the boardroom, whispers spread through the office within minutes. "I knew she was too perfect. They always look innocent. What a disappointment." Emily walked past every judgmental stare without saying a word. As the elevator doors opened, Margaret was waiting with her cleaning cart. "They fired you?" Margaret asked quietly. "Not yet," Emily replied, forcing a weak smile. "But they've already decided who the villain is." Margaret gently squeezed her hand. "Truth has a way of surviving lies." Emily nodded, though hope was fading. From the second-floor balcony, the finance director watched them together. Turning to his assistant, he spoke coldly. "Follow Emily. If she remembers anything, Make sure she never gets the chance to tell anyone. Emily left the building with her shoulders heavy, unaware a black sedan rolled slowly behind her through the evening traffic. She stopped at the pharmacy to buy medicine, but her bank card was declined after her company's salary had been frozen. Embarrassed, she apologized and quietly returned the medicine. Before she reached the door, Margaret stepped forward and paid the bill. "I can't let you do that," Emily protested. "It's only medicine," Margaret replied gently. "Someday, you'll help someone else." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Across the street, the finance director's assistant watched everything from inside the sedan before making a phone call. "She's vulnerable now." "Good," the director answered. "Tomorrow, we finish this." That night, Emily arrived home and found her apartment door slightly open. Her heart raced. She rushed inside. Drawers had been emptied onto the floor. Cabinets stood open. Every document had been searched. "My flash drive," she whispered. It was gone. Nothing valuable had been stolen except the evidence. As she stood frozen, her father emerged from his bedroom. "Emily," he asked anxiously. "Who would do something like this?" She hugged him tightly, hiding her fear. "The same people who are terrified. I'll expose the truth." The following morning, Emily walked back into Kingsley Group, determined to defend herself, but 2 security guards blocked the entrance before she reached the lobby. "I'm here to speak with Mr. Kingsley," she said firmly. One guard avoided her eyes. "Your access has been permanently revoked." Emily's heart sank. Permanently? The finance director stepped through the revolving doors holding a termination letter. After reviewing the evidence, he announced loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "The company has decided to dismiss you for gross misconduct." Employees gathered around, whispering as Emily accepted the envelope with trembling hands. "I didn't steal from this company," she said, her voice breaking. "I tried to protect it." The director smirked. "That's enough. Leave before we involve the police." Just then, Margaret emerged from the lobby, pushing her cleaning cart. She looked at Emily, then at the director. "One day," Margaret said calmly, "the truth will knock on your door when you least expect it." The director laughed. "Truth doesn't pay salaries, old woman." Emily gently hugged Margaret. "Thank you for believing me when no one else did." As Emily walked away in tears, Margaret's expression changed completely. She pulled a small recorder from her apron pocket. This time, she had captured every word. Margaret returned to her small apartment and locked the door behind her. She removed the hidden recorder from her apron and replayed every word the finance director had spoken outside the headquarters. Then she opened a secure laptop that no cleaner could possibly afford and connected to a private network. Within seconds, 3 trusted investigators appeared on a video call. "Mrs. Kingsley," one of them said respectfully, "we've been waiting." Margaret's gentle expression disappeared. "It's time," she said. "Emily has suffered enough." One investigator displayed a folder filled with surveillance photos, bank records, and confidential reports. "We've confirmed the finance director created fake transactions using Emily's credentials. The stolen money was moved through shell companies before reaching offshore accounts." Margaret nodded. "And the board? Most know nothing. They're being manipulated." "Good," Margaret replied. "I want the guilty exposed, not the innocent." Just then, another investigator spoke. "We've intercepted an invitation list for tomorrow night's Kingsley Foundation charity gala. Every executive involved will be there." Margaret closed the laptop with quiet determination. "They expect a celebration," she said. "They're about to witness a reckoning." Across town, Emily sat beside her sleeping father, believing she had lost everything. She had no idea the woman she had protected was preparing to change her life forever. The Kingsley Foundation charity gala sparkled with wealth, laughter, and expensive jewelry. But beneath the glamorous smiles, the guilty executives celebrated what they believed was their greatest victory. The finance director raised his glass. "To another successful year," he declared, "and to removing unnecessary problems." Across the ballroom, Emily quietly entered after receiving an anonymous invitation. She had almost thrown it away, but something told her to come. Guests whispered as they recognized the woman accused of fraud. Why is she here? Doesn't she have any shame? Before Emily could leave, security surrounded Margaret, still dressed as the elderly cleaner. You don't belong here, one guard snapped. I was invited, Margaret replied calmly. The finance director laughed loudly. Throw her out. She's embarrassing everyone. As two guards reached for Margaret's arms, a commanding voice echoed through the ballroom. Take your hands off her. Every guest turned toward the stage. The chairman stepped to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, allow me to introduce the true founder of Kingsley Group, the woman who built this empire from nothing, Mrs. Margaret Kingsley. The guards instantly released her. Margaret slowly removed her gray wig and glasses. A wave of stunned silence swept across the ballroom. The finance director's smile disappeared. His nightmare had just begun. The ballroom remained silent as Margaret stepped onto the stage beside Ethan, whose eyes filled with disbelief. Mother, it was you? He whispered. Margaret nodded. I needed to know who respected people, without expecting anything in return. She signaled to the large screen behind her. Hidden recordings, financial records, surveillance footage, and bank transfers appeared one after another. The finance director's face turned pale as every lie unraveled before the guests. You framed Emily Carter, Margaret said firmly. You stole millions from this company and hid behind an innocent woman. Police officers entered the ballroom. The finance director tried to run, but officers stopped him and placed him in handcuffs. Margaret walked toward Emily. When everyone else judged me by my uniform, you chose kindness. That cannot be bought. Emily fought back tears. Ethan looked at her with sincere admiration. I hope one day you'll give me the chance to earn your trust. Emily smiled softly. Trust isn't inherited, it's built. Months later, Emily's father recovered. The guilty were sentenced, and Ethan and Emily began a relationship founded on honesty instead of wealth. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Billionaire Story Vault. Like this video, share it with your friends, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were Emily? Until next time, remember, true wealth is measured by character, not money.